Hi, I'm Sue with Woman of Noble Character, and I am so excited to have with us today Laura McCullough. Laura is from A Kiss on the Chic, and she is an artist and a host of creative retreats all over the world, as well as a Christian wife and mom of 3 girls. I am so happy to have you here today, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about you, your business, and your ministry.
Okay, I will. Thank you for having me, by the way. This is new to me, so I'm a little nervous here. But again, my name is Laura McCullough. I'm turning the big 50 this year, so that's a bit crazy for me. I've been married 28 years to my husband, Lance, and we have 3 daughters. One is 23. She just got married a year ago this December. And then I have a 19-year-old daughter who's in Bible college right now, and a 13-year-old who's in 8th grade. Let's see. I've worked in the kind of scrapbooking mixed media art world for probably about 15 years, working with some of the companies like Webster's Pages, Maya Road, Teresa Collins, taught at CHA, which is the Craft and Hobby Association. We love to travel. And so my husband and I kind of had a deal when we got married. We decided to save our miles from American Express for 20 years and then just blow them out on a big trip. And that's what we did. So about, 8 years ago, we did that. And we went on a trip to Europe for about 2.5 weeks, fell in love with Italy. We had actually been there before, but I'll tell you that later. And anyway, so we used our miles to go on this trip and had such a blast. But one of the places that wouldn't take miles was this place I saw called Bellagio, Italy. And I had seen it through Passport to Europe. It's a TV show that I think her name is Samantha Brown does. And she showed her flying in on the lake. It's on Lake Como on like a seaplane to the hotel. And it was just one of those things that kind of stuck in my mind. And I thought, wow, I really would love to go there. So I did talk to my husband and say, well, we're using our miles, but can we splurge on this place? And we did. And I instantly fell in love with this little tiny town in Italy that really kind of takes you back in history. It's not anything, there's no modern buildings. It's just a really peaceful, beautiful place. And so we went there. And then we came home, told our daughters about it, and they wanted to go so bad. So we went again the following year because we had enough miles left over. And they fell in love with it and didn't think we'd ever go back. But I've actually been back now 15 times.
Oh, my.
I know. And it's because I think it was the second summer that we were there with our daughters. I said, well, can we come back again? And my husband's like, honey, this is expensive. We can't do this every year. And so he said, if you want to come back, try to find a way. And so I was down at the pool at the time. I marched up to the hotel and I said, do you guys have an event room? And they showed it to me. And just because I've been in the scrapbook and mixed media world, I thought, well, I know a lot of teachers. Maybe I could ask a couple to come with me and then we can blog about it and talk about it and people will sign up. So my first retreat there was in 2012, and that's kind of what started this whole retreat process.
That's wonderful. And by the way, I'll be 52 this year, and 50, I was terrified, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, it doesn't look any different than 49. So
that's true. That's true. But I am going to enjoy my 49 year.
Absolutely. That's a great story. And it's funny how God will make a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's all about him, and that's what he showed me later on.
Wonderful. And I know we're going to get to talk a little bit about how he's worked in your life. So yeah, I can't wait to hear all about that. So would you share a little bit of your testimony with our audience?
Sure, of course. Really, I don't have some crazy conversion testimony. I grew up in a Christian home with great parents. I have a brother, and we were, we were raised in the church, and I love my upbringing. But sometimes I think, gosh, I don't have one of those, crazy conversion stories. But I feel like I mean, that's obviously okay. I grew up, I got married very young. I was 21 when I got married, which sometimes when my kids were younger, I didn't want to share how young I was, but you know, it was right. And we waited until we were married. So we wanted to get married. And it's just, I guess I went along with my life, kind of pretty typically a normal life, and went to church and, you know, read the Bible, but I feel like I didn't have a big passion for the Lord. Like I saw when some people had those big conversions, you know, and were so excited about the Lord. I was raised in the church, which obviously is great, and that we've done that with our daughters, but I felt like I didn't have a deep passion. And so going back to the retreats, they were just about art until about 2014. I had probably done about 5 or 6 retreats by then. And I kind of felt like I had put a little bit of my faith in the retreats, but not a ton, and started praying about, are these retreats supposed to be about you, Lord? And I thought, well, maybe in a few years I can switch it, you know, to being a faith-based retreat. And he kind of knocked me over by saying, Laura, they need me now. Why are you waiting? People need me now. And so I actually talked to a friend of mine, Stephanie Ackerman, and I said, you know, I think it's time to do a faith-based one. And so I asked Stephanie to be a teacher. And then another friend of mine, Jean Oliver, I asked her to be a teacher because we are all believers. And 2015 was my first retreat that was faith-based. And I feel like that just led me down this road that the Lord, you know, we always have dreams like, oh, I loved Italy. I wanted to do retreats. And I thought, that's my dream. But then it's like the Lord, when you're giving it to him, he shows you that the dream's really his and it's about him. And so that's where I felt like my faith became stronger, and I delved deeper into the word. And the other thing that I think is part of my testimony, I have to thank Shauna Noel, because she is into Bible journaling, and I mean, that's not something that maybe a lot of people know, but it's where you're basically taking your art and putting it in a journaling Bible. I'm passionate about that, and I feel that through that, that's what drew me closer to the Lord and the journey that I'm on now.
That's fabulous. I do art journaling, and I just started to dabble in bullet journaling.
Okay.
With a lot of my faith, and I put a lot of scriptures and prayer requests, but I've not attempted Bible journaling yet. And
okay.
I think it's almost this block. I just can't write in my Bible. I don't even highlight. So
yeah, and it's funny because that's how probably I was too when I started. And if you look at my first journaling Bible, it's always just in the 2-inch margin, because journaling Bibles have this empty space. I've grown from that now, but people can certainly stay in that, you know, white space of the Bible. But it's not my Bible that I take to church. It's not my Bible necessarily that I read for my devotional time. It is my art Bible, and I have it behind me so I can show it to you at some point. But I just have grown so much in my faith by taking my passion for the Lord and my passion for the Bible or art and combining it. Yeah. And there's ways to kind of get into it that I love teaching people that art form. To me, it's an art form.
And I do think that art can be a form of worship.
Yeah.
I agree. I would love if you would share a few pictures of your Bible journaling that we can share with this interview so that our audience can take a look. I know I'd love to see them, and I'm sure they will.
Do you want me to show you now?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay. Well,
and then if you'd like to send a few pictures along as well, then
I don't know how well you'll be able to see this.
Without my glasses, not at all. There we go. Oh, that's beautiful.
I just did a little typewriter on this one, and this is my actual favorite verse, which is in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. But just talked about kind of a love letter and wanted to do a typewriter. Let's see.
Wow.
I kind of thought maybe you'd ask, so I put a few things in here. So there's so many different ways to do art in your Bible, like the inspiration that comes to you. So I take notes when I'm in church on Sunday or on Wednesday, and whatever the pastor says sometimes really inspires me. Right. And I go back and I'll maybe write some notes from it. So this page, which is actually a double page, was from my pastor this past summer, who was speaking on living a radically different life. And so I just kind of went crazy on this page, and you'll notice that there are words of the Bible that are covered. But again, to me, it's okay, because this is not the Bible that I'm reading or bringing to church. Let's see.
Beautiful.
So I don't know if you've heard of the One Little Word that Allie Edwards started. I've done that for probably 4 or 5 years, and I've kind of done a spin on it with a faith-based word or something, spiritually that would motivate me. In 2014, which is kind of funny, because that's kind of when I felt the Lord stirring my heart to do faith-based retreats. My word was closer, to draw me closer to the Lord. This year, I'm not thrilled about the word, but I kind of pray over like what He's speaking to me, and it's stretched. So I'm feeling already stretched this year, especially with this interview. So I did this one up in Colorado. And then let's see. Oh, I just did this one too. And this one is talking about having a robust faith. So this one is pretty much, not covering the words, but so that's kind of a few pages in my Bible.
If you have a moment, I'd love to share a few pictures so that our readers can take a closer look at it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can send you some photos.
That would be great. My word of this year, 2018, is gratitude. And that came about a lot of praying, and a lot of different words didn't speak to me. And finally, God said gratitude. And I just felt that I needed to make more of a focus in thanking Him for all of the blessings that He's given me, and focus on everything that He has blessed me with, rather than the things I still want and desire and dream about, because He's given me so much already.
Yeah.
That's my word.
So are you going to do like an art journal of that, or?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't been doing as much art as I had been, and I'm still, now that I'm having hand surgery this week, I'm going to be a bit limited, so I'm not sure really how that word will manifest itself, besides in my daily gratitude journal and prayer, but I'm sure it'll make an appearance in other ways, but God just hasn't told me yet, or I haven't listened well enough.
I'll real quick tell you what my brother did, and I thought it was awesome. He has 2 young children, but they would write something they were thankful for on a little piece of paper and put it in a jar. And then on New Year's Eve, they went through and read them all. And I thought, oh, what a sweet idea, especially for younger children, to just reflect on all those things. So
that's awesome.
Like that.
Blessings are, yep, absolutely. How do you kind of talked about this a little bit, but maybe you can tell us a little more about how you mesh your faith with your business.
Well, I mean, I've told you how the Lord, drew me to do the art and the faith together. Let's see. It's natural for me now, but I guess it was hard for me at that time when I was, here I have retreats that aren't cheap. We're flying to Italy, and so the niche of the art world plus the cost of it is pretty small. And so I was kind of nervous about changing that now and narrowing it down even more to art and faith. So I can understand how some people are nervous to really share about their faith in their business. And it's not easy to kind of get over that fear, but it is a fear. And I would say that, just trusting the Lord to provide, because He always provides, is where I was just like, okay, Lord, I have to trust You that this is what You're calling me to do. You want me to do this. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it came about. again, I think it comes down to fear, and we don't really want to block ourselves from what God has for us and for the people around us because of fear. So we really have to try to stop that fear and just, forget about it. Forget about it. And can I share a quick little story? Yeah. My daughters go to a serve project in Michigan with my brother every summer, and there's a youth pastor there. She has such a heart for that age, but she shared a story that I've shared with some friends of mine that is so mind-blowing. And it talks about fear. It's not really about business, but basically, real quick, the story is this lady was, I think, in the middle of America driving hours to somewhere. She had stopped to get gas at a gas station. Got back in her car, left. She had, a couple hours or so to go to her next destination or where she was going. And she heard that still small voice that said, turn around, go back to that gas station. And she's like, I don't need to go back to the gas station. So she kept driving. I think she heard it pretty close to the time that she got in her car and left. But she drove 2 hours, and it just got louder and louder and louder. And so she's like, okay, God, I'm going to turn around. She turned around, but she had to go 2 hours back the wrong direction. But she went, and she got to the gas station. She stopped. She prayed. She's like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? And he told her, and I think she was an older lady that wasn't maybe in the best of shape, because this was a friend of the speaker, not the speaker herself. And the Lord told her, I need you to do a handstand in front of the chips or the soda. I'm not exactly sure, but in the mini mart of the gas station. She's like, are you kidding me? But she's like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this. And you can Google this story. I think it's out there in public. So she goes into the gas station. Nobody's in this mini mart gas station except for the worker. And she's like, okay, I have to do this. I'm going to do it. She does it. And the worker says, what are you doing? And she said, I'm sorry. God told me to do this. And he falls on the floor weeping. He said, I was ready to kill myself tonight. And the last thing I did was pray to God that if you are real, you will send someone to do a handstand in front of the chips.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's such a crazy, I get chills every time. It's such a crazy story. But on top of that story, that woman listened to God. And yes, there's fear in that. There's embarrassment in that. There's inconvenience in that. But she listened. And, I kind of sometimes wonder, how many people did God put on their heart to do that? But she's the one that went back and listened. And I think to myself, am I the type of person that is fearful of talking to somebody or making an impact because of the fear, or the inconvenience or the embarrassment? But I look at that and I think, God has given me a job to do, and I'm excited about it. I mean, it's hard. It's a lot of work to do these retreats, and it's hard to get people to come, but I always pray, Lord, please bring the people that need to be here, need to hear what you want to say to them. I don't know if that ties into the question, but
Absolutely. And I think it's so applicable because there are people in our audience that maybe don't work outside the home, or maybe they're not in business for themselves, but we all face that fear. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a beautiful example of listening to God despite the fear. So.
I know, and I remember that story so many times, and I think, gosh, would I have done that? Would I have actually done that? And I hope that my faith gets stronger to where the Lord uses me in those situations, and I'm open to it, as crazy as it is,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you had one piece of advice to give to our audience today about how to live their faith through their career or business, be it that whether they work for someone else, or they work for them for themselves or someone else, what would it be about living their faith through their work, their vocation?
Well, I would say number one, just get on your knees and pray about it, because that's where it all starts. That's really, I think, getting on our knees is in submission to the Lord, allowing Him to work in our lives. And I'm telling you, He has so much more for us than we think. I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I've raised my three daughters. I mean, one is still at home. And that's a good, normal, healthy thing. But outside of that, I think God has so much more for us to do. And He wants us to dream big. And when we dream big for Him, that's when He gets the glory for it. That's when He shines through us. And it's not about us, but we have to take those bold steps of faith to do it. You know, there's a author, and he's actually a pastor. His name is Mark Patterson. I don't know if you've heard of him. Yep. He's one of my favorite artists. Or, why do I keep saying artists? He's one of my favorite authors, and I'll share a little bit more about him later, because I have an awesome God wink story about him. But he really opened my eyes to what the Lord wants us to do as far as dreaming big and showing how big God is. You know, I look back at my retreats and I think, well, I just wanted to go to Italy. I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to, do art. I love art, And so what I realized is that He instills those dreams in us. And hopefully we get to a point where we realize, actually, those dreams that He gave us are for His glory. And that's where it all boils down to. So I would say, give it all to the Lord. Ask Him to show you how to use you. I said that last year after my husband and I did the prayer circle. And I'm telling you, that's a scary thing to say. Mm-hmm. Because you're basically saying, Lord, use me unto death, maybe. I mean, that's a scary thing. Look at the disciples, And I remember crying that day when I actually literally said, Lord, I want you to use me. Wow, that's scary. But I'm telling you, when you're at that point where you're totally surrendering your business, your life, He's going to show up and He's going to show you great things.
Absolutely. That's great. And I have, my husband and I have listened to the prayer circle by him on audio.
Okay, yeah.
I saw that he has another book that's just come out or about to come out. So
yeah, it's right here. It's called Whisper. I guess I'm a big promoter of Mark Patterson's books, but they've grown my faith. I think
absolutely. He's
so
an
much.
Amazing teacher and on fire for God, but teaches in such a relatable way.
He really does. I mean, this book I was like, okay, I'm being a little stretched here, trying to think through, because it's talking about a lot of your brain and everything, and hearing the voice of God is what it's about. So that one was just so good. And I truly believe that the journey that my husband and I and our family are on right now, because we're moving to Colorado this year, is because of that prayer circle challenge. It was he has the book that goes along with the prayer circle. It's called 40-Day Prayer Challenge. Mm-hmm. And my husband and I started that last January. So all of that, I think, has just really brought us on this journey that we're on. So
great. I'll have to take a look at that. I didn't know there was a companion book.
Yeah, there is.
Let's take a step back and go back to when you started out with art. How did you start your art career? And then you did talk about how you transitioned to teaching some events, but talk about how you got your start in art.
Well, I would say thanks to my mom. She's a very creative person. And so I kind of grew up doing lots of fun projects with her, and scrapbooking before scrapbooking was real. And I'm not really, it's hard for me to call myself an artist, even though I guess I am.
You
I
are.
look at I look at other people and I think, oh my goodness, they know how to paint faces so perfectly, amazing. I know a lot of artists because we're in the art industry. So I know a lot of artists and I think, oh, I don't know if I'm an artist, but I would say as far as starting, did you ask if I was starting how I started my career or just got into art itself?
Yeah, they're kind of related because you had to start somewhere before you
Yeah,
started a career.
yeah. So I guess I would say when my oldest daughter was almost 2, this is so funny, somebody got me into Creative Memories, if
Yep.
you remember them.
Yep, that's how I started.
And I fell in love with just preserving our memories. And so that's, I guess, kind of how it started. But I was never one to really want to use one product line. Like I worked for all those companies, but it was really hard for me. And that's probably why I stopped. It's like, but I want to use paint and I want to use this. And when you're designing with a company, you have to use pretty much all of their stuff. So that's kind of where I found out about more mixed media art, and that's probably more my passion now. Although I still journal and I still try to scrapbook some of my family's memories. I really have taken it more to the art world, I guess, and just love mixing things together.
Our guests aren't here to hear about me, so I'll wait to share this with you
No,
a little
that's
bit
fine.
later, but I have a very eerily similar story to you.
Okay, how cool.
For that. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your retreats. What can attendees expect and when's the next one?
Well, I have 3 this year. One is sold out. I'm doing 2 in Bellagio, Italy. So I've mentioned that before. Bellagio is on Lake Como. So if you think of George Clooney, who has a house on Lake Como, it's that lake. It's just absolutely a breathtaking part of Italy. So my events are a week long. They're Saturday to Saturday. And you fly in kind of the day before, and you fly into Milan, and I pick you up in a big private bus or shuttle and take you to Bellagio. It's about an hour and a half away. And then you're basically pampered for a week. The price of the retreat is kind of different depending on where we're going, because I do have one in Paris this summer that goes from Paris to Bruges. That one's sold out, but I will probably do that one again. That's the second time I've done that one. But my heart really is in this town of Bellagio, Italy, and just sharing that with people. So it's a week-long event, and I usually ask 1 to 2 teachers to teach with me. I've asked a ton of different teachers that probably and I'm kind of leaning towards changing that and just asking 1 teacher besides myself to teach, so that I have more time for that teacher to really go through and do something and let her art, be shown more instead of kind of having too many teachers. But we have meals together. We go across the lake. We see the villas. We explore. We do, sketching by the lake. Or it's just a really great week to take a step back from your life, and just really we have devotional time. We have a lot of things that, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But it's really a week to step back, to be renewed in your faith, to draw closer to the Lord, to be inspired, and to go back and go back home with new friends, with great memories, with this inspiration that moves forward in your journey home and life going forward. So that's kind of what it's about.
That's really great. I've always wanted to do a creative retreat, and it's just a lot of life changes the past couple of years. I'll get there. It just hasn't happened.
Good.
I love the name of your site, by the way.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear how that came about, but I understand there's some changes in the work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So again, I've been in the scrapbook mixed media world for about 15 years, and I, a long time ago, had a kit club, and that was the name of the kit club, A Kiss on a Chic, like shabby chic, and I had really a ton of fun doing it, but it was a lot of work, and my children were much younger at that time. The name came about because my husband is he's an entrepreneur. He has brilliant ideas in his head. And I actually, long before A Kiss on the Chic, was a wedding coordinator. And he came up with the name for my business, A Bride Idea, instead of a bright idea, a bride idea. So he likes those, play on words. And so when we were coming up for the Kit Club, he also came up with A Kiss on a Chic instead of A Kiss on the Cheek, and just kind of a play on words. So I've had that name for a long time. And I love the name as well, so I don't know that it's completely going away. But I feel like I need to have a name now that's more, just it embodies what we're doing more instead of just that name. So we are changing the website and I think some of my social media to Art and Faith Creative. Okay. And my middle daughter, who's 19 and in Bible college right now, her heart is to go into women's ministry. And we really feel that this is a women's ministry.
Absolutely.
And so she is coming into the business with me and helping me because I'm not really tech savvy or anything like that. But she's going to help with the social media and all that stuff. And so we're getting a new website done here this year, creating a shop inside the website that will have some fun products that are from Italy, because we have a lot of friends. Bellagio has basically become our second home. Might become our third home because we're moving to Colorado, but we have so many friends there. The Lord has really given us a heart for that town specifically. Our big dream is to have a church there someday. I don't know if that's going to happen, but our oldest daughter married someone and they're both in missions, and have a heart for, and her husband is Sicilian. So okay. He's from Italy, and that's another crazy God story, but, so anyways, that's how the name is, but I think we might be changing it and seeing where that goes.
Well, I'm sure God's hand will be in it and he'll lead you the right way. And I do think, by the way, that it is a ministry.
Thank you. It really has become that. I've seen that.
In addition to hosting these amazing retreats in gorgeous locations,
yeah,
you also teach art online or locally?
It's so funny when I saw the question ahead of time and I thought, okay, God, I see you, because that's kind of something that I've been nervous about doing. And a few months ago, I actually had a dream. In the book Whisper by Mark Patterson, one of the first parts of the book, it says, and I'll have to get the verse later because I don't know it exactly, but it talks about, there's a verse in the Bible that says, Lord, speak, your servant is listening. And I read that, and at night, I kind of prayed before I went to bed, Lord, just speak to me and show me what you want me to do. And I had such a dream that night and I don't remember my dreams. That's the thing. I don't remember dreams, but I woke up in the middle of the night and remembered it. And then thankfully, I was able to wake up later on and remember it and write it down. So it was a lot about what you're asking me. Am I going to do these things? And I don't, as of yet. I don't do online classes. I used to teach a lot, but I kind of took a step back from that. But in that dream, the Lord showed me like all these things he wanted me to do. And those were some of the things. So when you asked that question, I was like, okay, God, I hear you.
He's reminding you.
Yeah. So that might be part of my website. I don't even know how to go down that road. So I'm not sure, but we are feeling the Lord calling us to Colorado and build a gathering place. So we're building a barn that will be on our acreage, and it's for the Lord. So whatever he wants me to do, I can see doing some little retreats there. We've talked about having worship nights there, Bible studies there. I will definitely be teaching Bible journaling there in the classroom setting. So we're trying to figure out right now, how big does this barn have to be? we do need to look at costs. So, but it will be a gathering place, and that's the Lord kind of led me to. Well, and I don't think I shared the story yet of Colorado.
No, not yet. And maybe when we talked about what's next for you, but you're free to share that right now because it's certainly appropriate time.
Yeah. So, well, okay, we'll go into that. What's next for me and my family is we are moving to Colorado. So my husband and I have lived in California our entire life, not ever thinking we were going to move. I mean, you know, you have these dreams of, oh, I'd love to live here or there. But we were really satisfied and content, which I found is an interesting word. Once you're content, the Lord is like, okay, let's go somewhere else. But what happened, and it's kind of a long story, but so every summer I do my retreats in Italy. But my brother does that serve project that my girls have always gone to in July. Last summer, we decided we were going to stay in Italy and France and then fly straight from there to my brother and then let the girls do that and then go home. But circumstances happened where my husband got sick, my mom at home was sick, and we needed to get home and not go to Michigan. So we came home instead. And I'm saying this all because I know this is God's plan. We came home and we were actually blown away by some things that happened at home that we had to be at home for. So God knew, and he was stirring our hearts to go home. But in that process, about a week later, I said, well, let's just do a road trip to Michigan, which is crazy from California, but we did. And it was just me and my two younger daughters, so the 13-year-old and the 18, well, she was 18 at the time. But we had some friends along the way. Jean Oliver was one of them. Another lady that had been to my retreat lived in Nebraska. So we kind of stopped along the way to get to Michigan. Anyways, the Lord just stirred my older daughter and my heart in Colorado to something. We didn't know. We just loved it, and we just felt like there was something there. Had a conversation with Jean in her backyard one day, and she lives on some acreage, and she said, you know, I just didn't know that I needed this, but the Lord knew that I needed this, because she, you know, she lived in just a regular home and was able to see God move them to this land. Again, not thinking anything was going to happen. So we came home, we talked to my husband, just told him how the trip went and all this stuff. And I thought, Lord, in my devotional time, you're showing me something big here. And I don't know what it is, but you need to stir his heart because he's Mr. California. And sure enough, he did. And it was actually kind of freaky to me. So I'm like, wait a second. I don't know that I want to move, but okay, you know. And so in September, we went to just look. And yeah, and ended up buying 35 acres of land. That process has the Lord has shown us so much confirmation, crazy confirmation, even just a few days ago. And so, so that's what's next for us. We are in the process of moving our lives to Colorado and seeing, you know, what that looks like.
Yes, in store for you. When are you moving? Do you know yet?
Well, we thought we were going to put our house up for sale in like a month or two, but we just got we found a home builder through a friend of mine, Jean, and they are also believers, and it's a crazy story. I have to share that one real quick. The other Saturday, we were looking at a home that builder built, just to kind of get an idea of what they do and what we want and stuff. And then we went to his house and we had lunch there and looked at some floor plans with him. And while we were doing that, all of our daughters were there. Even my daughter and her husband were there because they're prayerfully considering moving as well. But I have to say, before this conversation that I'm going to share with you, they were thinking, yeah, I don't know. You know, that was in their heart, like, I don't know. So while we're having this conversation, the girls go outside and get on their ATVs and ride around they have 35 acres. Come back, we're done, ready to leave. We can't find the keys to our rental car. Can't find them anywhere. It's 1:30 in the afternoon. Their family is so gracious because they all have to go places. They let us stay at their house, look for the keys, get back on the ATV. They're helping us. My younger daughter has this Civil War ball that she has to go to, so they let us borrow their car. They're all gone. We're there for probably till 7 o'clock at night looking for these keys, never find them. We call a locksmith to come out and see if they can open our door and maybe cut a key. In this whole process of craziness, we're frustrated. My daughter, who had the keys, is balling her up because she feels horrible. They come home, the home builder comes back home with food for us because we've been there for hours. The nicest family, they're driving us all over the place for this ball and all this, go back to the hotel. And the guy comes back with these sandwiches. We sit around the table and we have a conversation that is so God ordained that we know that that was supposed to happen. And it was all about what the Lord is doing in this city in Colorado and how they felt stirred 4 years ago to move back, that they prayed. Okay, this is so crazy. The home builder started talking about Mark Patterson's Prayer Circle book. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's my favorite author. We read it. We did the challenge last year. And he said, yeah, that's what stirred our hearts to come back here. They prayed a circle around our land before they even knew us. I just started bawling. My husband's like, it's just allergies. But he's crying a little bit.
Oh, what a beautiful story.
And so it was just another confirmation. It's just been such a crazy journey. And I don't know if I shared the Hebrews 10:23-25, where this past summer I was out doing my devotions in the backyard, and the Lord stirred me to those verses, which talks about not neglecting to gather together, especially in the end days. And so that's where I got this gathering place from the Lord. And another time he confirmed that I was to gather people at the table, and people of all different kinds, you know, so that's what we're headed towards. That's what's next for us, but we're not exactly sure what it looks like. It's just, you know, trusting and following the Lord.
That Hebrews verse you just mentioned, I share a snack-sized devotion on video every Tuesday. Oh. And just yesterday recorded Hebrews 10:23-25.
No way. That's so cool.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure what day that's going to publish because I recorded them ahead of time, knowing I have surgery, but I'll let you know. But
awesome. Yeah.
I think God is sending us a message with this as well for that verse to come up again. You've mentioned a few different verses, and one of the questions that I wanted to ask was, what was your favorite Bible verse or book of the Bible? And you've mentioned the impact that Hebrews 10:23-25 had on you, and you also mentioned Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Would you say one of those or those would be your favorite? Or
definitely. Go ahead.
No, I had an incoming call. I just had to go.
Well, and I was gonna say Proverbs 3:5 and 6. You know, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. That you can rush by that in reading it, but that is so important to just stop, listen. Don't trust your own understanding. God is so much bigger than us. He has plans so much bigger than us. Trust in him. And then just, you know, in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your path. So that is definitely I would say my life verse, my favorite verse, because there's just so much truth and simplicity in those two little verses. If we can just try to do that, and I know it's not easy. The humans
in us always try to be in control.
Yes.
The verse is a beautiful reminder that, you know, we just need to trust in him. He's got this.
I know. Yes, he does. And it's hard. I know. And then, yes, the gathering, the verse about gathering people together has obviously become a new favorite of mine. And when we were in Colorado the last day, Sunday, we went to this kind of antique store and I found a little sign with the word gather. So I bought that for my barn and that'll go somewhere there. So yeah, the Lord's definitely doing something. And the other thing that the home builder said was he really feels the Lord is calling believers to this part of Colorado to make a difference. And he said that at the meeting a week before, that really gave me chills, thinking, wow, the Lord really did stir my heart. Like, it's true. And it's like, why am I not believing it? But all these little confirmations are just like, wow. Yeah. There's a reason we're there, and we'll figure that out.
And I can't wait to see where he leads you and what he is leading you to do in that area, because it seems like there's something big that he is stirring so many hearts.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and real quick, we went to a church that my friend goes to when we were there in September, and the pastor was kind of doing a Q&A thing, so it's kind of different than a normal Sunday service. But he mentioned that area was 95% unchurched. And I thought, wow, I mean, I live in California, and I don't even think where I live is 95% unchurched. There's churches everywhere here. And I thought, okay, Lord, is that what you're calling us? Is that why you're calling us there? So that could very well be the reason.
He'll reveal it to you in his time.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call, and I don't know who. It's from Florida. Okay.
I will share below this video of our interview all the links so that people can find you everywhere and find out more about your retreats and perhaps follow along with where God's leading you. But I want to close up with what I call fun tidbits. And I'm going to ask you some kind of quick facts. So first thing that comes to your mind to let us know a little bit more about you on a personal level. Nothing too crazy, though. All right. Your favorite snack food?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Okay. They're one of my favorites, too. Favorite musical artist?
Lauren Daigle.
Good answer. Your favorite non-art related book? So maybe a book you're reading right now or something that's really stirred your heart.
Non-art book? Well, that would probably be any of Mark Patterson's books. I would say probably Whisper is one of the best. Yeah.
Can't wait to get my hands on that one.
Yeah.
I need a couple good books during my recuperation.
Yeah.
TV show you just can't miss?
Survivor.
We're big Survivor fans too, my husband and I. Coffee or tea?
Coffee for sure. I have an Italian son-in-law who's like the coffee barista of the world. So that's the other thing we're thinking about doing, is opening a coffee house in that town if they move with us.
And I'm sure you know the story of Mark Patterson and his coffee.
Yes, Ebenezer. Yeah. I definitely want to get there someday to see it too.
Absolutely. That's the first thing that I thought of when you said coffee. And one odd thing we probably don't know about you.
Whew. Probably don't know that we took a year off to travel around the world when we just had our 2 daughters. My husband is, he's an entrepreneur. He's a CPA by trade. He sold a business. And at the time, we had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. And the guy that helped him sell his business said, okay, you don't have a ton of money, but when in your life do you have money in the bank, you're selling your house, and you don't have a job? Think of something that you could do. That's something that you normally couldn't do. And so I remember having that conversation with him at Macaroni Grill in 2001 or 2. And we devised a plan to have a budget and travel with our 2 daughters for a year. And we surprised them on Christmas with a map of the world. And we said, okay, guys, guess what we're doing next year? Oh. And the youngest one was she turned 4 on the trip, but she wasn't in school yet. We homeschooled the 7-year-old, and we had a blast.
I'm sure you did. What
was just a once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, once in a lifetime thing. We still talk about it to this day. We'd love to do it again, but it's not really possible with the ages of our kids. But that was an amazing time.
I'm sure that it was. That's awesome. Something I'd love to do. Well, I thank you so much for spending the time with me today, and I know our audience loved getting to know you just as much as
Oh,
I
thank
did.
you. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing where your journey takes you, what God has in store for you. And for our listeners today, be sure to look down below as Laura has generously offered a giveaway that you're going to sure to want to be a part of. So thank you so much
Thank you.
and have a wonderful day. God bless you.
You too. Thank you.